All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Paul Kirchoff. I like how it says Kirch instead of Paul. And
Yeah,
so-
yeah. Hey man, when you get really good at what you do, you can kind of go to like Madonna,
oh,
you know,
there we
like
go.
no, just
There we go. Something
yeah,
to
just kidding.
aspire to for us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, well, Paul, it is awesome to have you here, and I've been looking forward to this conversation. We got to talk, but well, first I want to give a shout out to Jem Fuller because he's
Hmm.
the one that introduced you and I. Without him, you and I probably would have never even met.
That's
And
right.
and man, I love Jim. I love who he is. I love how he shows up. I just got to do an interview with him yesterday for his podcast,
Amazing.
which was way cool because I don't normally do that. I host this podcast, but I don't go on a ton of others. And that was a
Yeah.
really cool experience. And, you and I got connected by Jim. We got to have a conversation. And I'm not going to lie, Paul, our conversation, it's been percolating in my mind ever since we had that first conversation because
For sure.
you just planted some seeds with me that I'm like, okay, I'm curious. And you also totally pegged me. You're like, I know exactly the two things you're dealing with right now. And I'm like, dang, man, this guy's been reading my mail.
Yeah, for
so,
sure.
and so
Been walking in your shoes.
yes, and so I've been really looking forward to this conversation. And so I just want to start with let's make a simple question. We'll just start with what do you do, Paul, and who do you serve?
Yeah, man. So I've got a couple of things that I have going on. One of them is I'm a tech veteran CEO. I've had many startups, sold some companies, shut down a couple of companies. It's been a great journey from the early days of Dell Computer Corporation. Before here, I live in Austin, Texas. Before anybody in Austin knew who Dell was, Michael Dell, the big computer
Yep.
company. I was one of the early employees, kind of like figured out with a blank sheet of paper how to adjust business models and operations, use technology so that we could thump everybody else, which we did back in the day. But I've been an entrepreneur ever since. And right now, I have a tech company. It's more of an ecosystem for small growth businesses and their leaders, which is kind of a competitor to LinkedIn. But at the end of the day, it's heavy, heavy artificial intelligence, which is one of my expertise. So there's a lot of stuff in there. But at the end of the day, when people join, we help them with accelerate the time to get to their best peak performance unique to their genetics on the health side, which we all need. We help their companies accelerate success, sometimes with AI, a lot with connections, a lot with knowledge. And we also make sure that, you don't forget to dance under the Milky Way because life is short and you don't want to end up working so hard that you didn't have some fun. So it's the holistic thing that we all want. I think the gift that I have in technology, we just make it all go faster, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Success, health, everything. So
Yeah. What inspires you most about the work you get to do and the impact you get to make, Paul?
well, you know what? The funny thing for me, which I it probably resonates with you, is it's not when I was younger, it was like, financial goals and can I own a Lambo or something? I mean, all the things that, people grow up like
Sure.
thinking, and now none of that matters. It's a scorecard, but I'm addicted to a blank sheet of paper. I seem to be gifted to solve or invent anything. But what really matters to me is like respect for fellow humans, no matter who they are. They're all a unit of one on their own unique journey to this moment. And number two is living in service of others, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if I make a connection, if my software makes a connection, if my software gives you the equivalent of 10x employees, then I've changed the trajectory of many lives. And I think that's why I kind of like gravitated to, how do I replicate myself with technology, right? I mean, if I can invent AI teams for companies, they operate much bigger and break the physics of what traditionally would have been barriers, right? If I can replicate what you and I do, we can start to serve and connect more people faster. So I
Yeah.
just, I'm a true believer in, if you want the world to be better, you need to show up and do that. And that means putting your ego and stuff that you might have learned, long ago in your back pocket for a little bit and just keep serving other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I know you shared, some of your background with Dell and all that, but how did you get into doing the work that you do right now and stuff? How did you get into
Mhm.
the AI stuff?
Well, it's funny because I think the AI stuff is, it reminds me back in the day, one of the companies that I built and sold was one of the top demand generation agencies in the world, right? We were a marketing agency, but as the world was becoming electronic warfare in marketing, right? Social media, SEO, all these things, you know, I was already a tech innovator. So it became very easy for me to either build some software or grab this piece and this piece, put them together, and I could do things that nobody else could. And so at one point, you know, we would control the front page of Google. Facebook was calling us in to ask us how we were converting their traffic. And so I think the technical side of marketing is a little bit psychology of who you're reaching, but it's also the pipes that you're, you know, bringing it in. So I've always been on the cutting edge of how to deploy technology. And when AI, you know, first came out for my career, with those two things put in place, like operational innovation and a tech builder at the frontier, it was very easy for me to understand, here is how AI can be deployed in every single department, in almost every single task. And so I wanted to build that for small businesses because I felt like, wow, this is the missing factor. I mean, if I can have 10x the resources with no change to my day, that changes things for every small business, right? You can now grow beyond these chains that we've had. But the truth is, I'm also doing some, you know, much bigger company business transformation. I'm talking like $1 billion companies. I'm the transformation consultant helping these guys go from where you are today to how do you actually take a bigger company to, with all of their human talent and the fallout and the strengths of those. How do you start to maneuver yourself into an AI first company? So I'm really blessed that I have the gift of how to do this at a bigger company level, but I'm building tech myself and an ecosystem of technology so that I can, you know, kind of break small businesses free where I've been most of my life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, what is an example of a result that you've helped a client get that you're just incredibly proud of?
Yeah, well, man, I mean, there's so many because let me just say this, there's different elements to this business.
Uh-huh.
One of them is a networking ecosystem that somebody joins, and then regardless of what they want, right? If they want to be happier, healthier, learn karate in their sleep, or if you want to also raise capital, you need help with marketing, the platform that I have, no matter what answer you give, has those answers because we've got people like you, we've got people like Jem, right, who can help people transform from, you know, whatever constraints they have mentally to a much stronger leader. All of this talent exists in within the network, and so there's countless successes of people who, you know, were battling depression, who couldn't sleep, and they got connected to the biohacking guys. This one got connected to somebody like Jem that helped them transform, and countless other ones where people needed to raise capital and the investment came from inside the network. People needed to find a partner and the partner was inside the network. So all of those things have changed, you know, people's lives.
Mhm.
On the consulting side, right, which is a little bit distant, it's remarkable. Some of the AI technologies and systems that we have when deployed for a small business, like we have one company that I believe they're every single month since the moment we showed up, they're 60 or 70%, and they were already in the millions of dollars in revenue, 60 or 70% higher in revenue, and they've been scaling with zero change to human headcount. Why? It's
Wow.
because you've got guys like us deploying the AI systems to handle support, to become an AI salesperson, to become an AI marketing team. All these things are possible. And so I feel like, you know, my career has brought me to the point where if anybody who has ambition that wants to achieve faster or they want to just be healthier or happier, right? The network does that. If it's a small business, we can deploy AI systems that change the game for their business. And if you're a big business, we'll help you map that path to go from where you are to where you better be, because there's people like me that it might be your competitors, you know, inventing that blank sheet of paper without human overhead,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
speed and intelligence. Yeah. So it's exciting. But again, all of it is being that X factor, either in people's lives or facilitating an X factor with somebody else that might be the X factor in your life, you know? And that just gives me great, great, great joy. It's like all of your gifts are wrapping up into some serious weapons for business, but also for people's health and also for people's relationships and also for people's, you know, mental strengths, right? And the ability to be a better person. And it's not me that is delivering the ability for you, Kevin, to be a better person. It's me delivering the technology, the tools, and the network so that you can get the expertise or the knowledge or the inspiration to become the better person that is unique to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things, that, however we're brought up, social media has kind of made us benchmark ourselves against everybody. Our parents in sports told us to, compete and try to be the best, and everything's got competition, which is great. That's what drives innovation. I love it. Right. But at the end of the day, we don't spend enough time really understanding that, wow, if you really want to be stress free, right, and therefore be a great leader, and therefore, love the people around you, you have to be able to get rid of fear. And if you get rid of fear, which there's a long conversation you probably covered with Jem on this, he's an expert at this, but what ends up happening is the darkest times you value as much as the things that you achieve. Because even if you are in a rough time, which I've spent some rough, canyons, just like you have, like they've always been the precursor to the summit. And so all of a sudden, when things are tough, I don't look at them. I don't blame myself. I don't blame anything. I just close my eyes and just embrace the moment, because it's as beautiful and valuable as any of the other things. By the way, one time, just a little quick side note. One time, I was telling you, part of the network that we do is I host things like this with all sorts of experts, genetic scientists, people talking about quantum physics, how to hack Instagram for growth, right? How to organize your sales team, everything that's business, health, peak performance, and adventure. And so one time this guy came on and he was an expert at how to go from idea to a business plan that raises money and you can execute. And then one day he goes, you know what? He goes, I did the math the other day and my success rate is like 14%. And this is a very successful guy. 14% is a success rate. So I get home and I'm like, you know what, man, I wonder what mine is. And I start looking back as much as I can remember of all the things that I've legitimately tried. I put time, effort, maybe some money into, and it turns out I'm like at 11%, right? 11%
Interesting.
success rate.
Ah.
And yeah,
Mm.
but can you imagine, like, and I feel like I'm fairly successful, right?
Mhm.
And what that benchmark means against anybody else's expectations, I've learned to not really give a shit about what your definition of success is.
That's right.
Mine is happiness, stability, and just the enjoyment of life while I'm going after all these things, right?
Yeah.
Competitively.
Yeah.
But what was interesting is that, entrepreneurs and leaders, we really put enormous pressure on ourselves. And if anybody would have told us, man, if you're at 14 or 11%, you're kicking ass,
Yeah.
we would have a different view of ourselves. So there's so
Amen.
much wrapped up into that, but we spend time like helping to reorient, every aspect of what makes life great. Speed success, get your perspective correct, just like that. So you live effortlessly with less stress, but you're still hammering stuff as full speed as possible. And it's just a joy to be in that position where you can help, everybody else. And again, it's not my expertise, but I'm like you, I'm the facilitator, right?
Yeah.
In many cases. I
Yeah.
mean, trust me, I got my own scars, on the back to share with my own, stories, but it's just a story. It's a unit of one, So
Yeah.
anyway. Mhm.
Well, so you have really unique perspective on this. So I've been looking forward to asking
Mhm.
you this question, and I've never ever asked anybody else this question after 300 and some interviews now, but I'm going to ask it of you because
Mhm.
it's in this digital world, and especially now with AI,
Mhm.
trust is becoming more and more like valuable and harder to find too. It's harder,
Mhm.
and I mean, we see so much stuff. I mean, we see these calls being made to people, like saying, acting like it's your child, saying they're in trouble, and like it sounds like your child, but yet it's not.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we see videos now that, like, man, I mean, pretty soon we're going to have video that we really cannot tell, is that real or is that AI,
Mhm.
and so how do you feel this whole AI thing is going to play into, because what I have been finding in my world and just doing what I do, that this just the real meaningful relationships that I've created with people over the last 30 years are becoming more and more and more valuable now.
Mhm.
And things are changing. I mean, what is your take on this whole thing, AI, when it comes to trust and relationships and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a couple of, I think, vectors of the answer, at least my opinion and answer that I'll give you. But just bear with me for a second,
Yeah.
because on one hand, you and I were kind of having a preamble conversation, and we were talking about how when you make an introduction to somebody, or I make a personal introduction to somebody, or anybody does, we are conveying our integrity, our trust factor, our resume, our character that goes with whoever we're handing off. Which is why you have to be very careful. And the people that are frivolous with that because they're trying to make a buck, they will get canned. You have to really be genuine in understanding that if I put my name on this person and I introduce you, it's because I've already done the homework to know that this fits what you're looking for, and this person, because I'm giving them my character, is going to provide value. And so in an AI world, which I shared with you, I'm actually delivering, because otherwise you and I would be capped. There is one of the innovations in this platform is a networking assistant, but it's governed by you. The more you tell it what to do, it uses your reasoning of why it's valuable to you to go figure out whether somebody can deliver that. Now, that doesn't have any trust, right? Any trust at that point. It's facilitating value because without any change to my day, there is a networking agent that knows me, that is active for me, right? All the time, looking for knowledge or connections or whatever. This is all in this Epics platform that we have. And over time, I will trust it when it brings accurate things back, right? And so in that manner, it may not be the same as that human connection, but the fact is, it may end up being a equally trusted, hyper efficient tool that gets me what I need to go faster than what you and I can do. This is a TBD. On the other hand, I think that back to what you were saying about content, you know, if you take a look at Facebook or you take a look at Instagram, I mean, honestly, this is partly why, to some degree, I'm building a different type of networking platform, right? It was because when I looked at Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, first of all, it used to give us social networking. Now, if you look at that feed, it's like ad, sponsored
Oh,
post. It's an ad. I mean, there's no networking whatsoever, right? And all of these guys, because of their advertising model, have devolved, I think, into a micro entertainment channel, right? That's what it is. It's entertainment. And if LinkedIn's not careful, they're going to go down there. And it's because they have to compete for your attention, or you don't click ads. And I think that's a problem, because even now, as you can see, with Sora 2, which is the latest video rendering engine, AI engine from OpenAI, or Veo 3, which comes from Google, I mean, I can literally produce something that is not just the photo being photorealistic of you, but I can drop you on top of a woolly mammoth walking across the Sahara Desert, right, drinking a scotch. And it is as real as possible. And not everybody is as smart as you or your listeners or me. And so, the ability to not know, what you're seeing is real or not has all sorts of societal implications. And therefore, to answer your question, finally, I think that there will be a little bit of a backlash. I don't think the backlash is going to come in business because of the innovations that we're talking about, that especially like I'm proving, because I think in business, where whoever is more hyper efficient usually wins.
okay.
But I think from a consumer standpoint and a society standpoint, we are going to gravitate to things that, when a connection is made, it is authentic. You know that you know what you're looking at. And ironically, the Epics .global platform that I built has no ads in it, because if there were ads, I would be forced to try to get people to click on ads. And if I leave that out and have a different business model, every single connection is based on the merit of what you want, Kevin, and this tech AI tool representing you and bringing you things that it's telling you, here's why this matters to you. right? It's just the different game. And so I think that a lot of that is gonna change for good in both ways, for good in both ways. But the human connection, which makes us, who we are, is there's limits to what any technology will do, right?
Yeah.
It's that magnetic field around our heart in the quantum mechanics of the world that makes you and I really appreciate each other even more so than our brains appreciate each other, and
Yeah.
that's just cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So now that we've got some context and you've probably just blown everybody's minds who's listening to it.
No worries.
Well, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit and I want to move over to the relationship side of this conversation. And so I will start by asking you, Paul, have you ever met or been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, listen, I told you that I don't think in the history or going forward anybody will answer this, like I will, because
Okay.
I have two. I've thought about this a lot, and let me just say this: I have been, before I tell you who they are, I've been super blessed in life to have a very similar life to yours, where, by the nature of who you are, and I mean holistically, you've met some really incredible people. Like during COVID, I was one of 8 people to get flown to the Vatican to meet with the Pope and the head of the Catholic institutions because people weren't going to church and they needed to raise money, right? They had a massive machine to run, and they had some issues. And I've been to, Richard Branson's island many times, and none of that matters necessarily to me. But the reason I share that is because they were great experiences. But when I think about your question, I've thought about it. I don't think there's anybody that I look up to or admire or want to be like that has affected my life, even in those moments. And so the two that I want to give you, um, I think are the most. These are the ones that come to mind, right? Very uncharacteristically. The first one I want to share is part of why I have the business I have is because I was that entrepreneur for a decade plus, working 14 hours a day around the clock, and was a one trick pony success. No adventure, no personal development, no network, nothing. This is not that long ago, and I knew I needed to desperately change something, and so I changed adventure. And the one person that keeps coming to mind all the time is I took a group of people um, to the far eastern corner of Mongolia,
Okay.
and we were riding horses with the Mongolian eagle hunters. These are the guys that have pet eagles, golden eagles. They're 40 pounds. They ride horses and they take their pet eagles out and they go hunt wolves or whatever. And we're riding in distant Mongolia. And we pulled up on this little farm, and they had a yurt. The guy was in a yurt and he came out, and he was an older gentleman, and he had a fox necktie around his thing, spoke zero English. And when we were introduced to him, the translator said, "Hey, these guys are from the United States," and there was really no change in his expression. And then I said, "Just tell them we're from America," because I figure, some people, they don't know the United States, maybe they know America. He says America, and the guy had no knowledge of like America, no knowledge of the United States, and behind him was this broken down Russian truck. And I realized at that moment that they don't have dogs, they don't have cows, they have horses and they have pet eagles that are their dogs. And I realized that this is the furthest from my life being a tech guy, high speed, high competitive, high innovation. This guy's the opposite side of my life. And here this guy is so excited to meet us as just new friends, and equally excited are we to meet this guy. And there's zero in common, zero knowledge about each other. And it was one of the most remarkable moments because it kind of shows you this like level of connection that's possible when you drop whatever labels and systems and passports and everything else. And honestly, that that I think was an extension of the life that I've already been given. But it really, the combination of me solving life burnout with adventure and seeing how good people can be
Yeah.
to each other, I brought that spiritualness and core value into the network that I now built technology around, so that when people show up, they know, despite who's in this network, which are all super achievers. We got guys swimming oceans and skiing down Mount Everest and winning gold medals. None of that shit matters. If you come in here and you're a single mom of 5 kids and you have remarkably raised good children, that might be more impressive than a dude walking in space, right? And I want that to be the culture, and it reminds me of that. So that's the first one. The second one is even more crazy, which is, and by the way, both of these I have no idea where they are, what their names are, nothing.
Yeah.
The second guy I met right after coming out of a very casual happy hour. I was like 32, happy hour. Got in my car, must have been late getting through a light, get pulled over, and this police officer comes over to me and says, "Hey, have you been drinking?" And I said, and this is really true. I said I had 2 drinks over the course of the last hour, right? I'm clearly fine. And he said, look, he goes, the fact that you answered that, you seem like a really nice guy. You have to do this like sobriety thing. So I get out, I do it. Honestly, I think I aced it. Something must have been rattling in my eye. The guy takes me and arrests me and takes me downtown. And the whole time I'm in the back of this thing, I'm actually very, very sober. And he's saying, man, you're like one of the nicest people I've ever met. And I'm just like, this is like a disaster. So what happened is I get thrown in, the middle of this pool of like convicts and everything. I'm dressed nice. I feel totally normal. And in the end, I decided to say to the judicial system, and this is the only time it's ever happened to me in my life, by the way. I said, you know what, I'm happy to do a little, if you get rid of this charge, I'll do a little bit of community service. So they said okay, like no problem, it'll be wiped off your record, and you have 3 choices. And I said, I'll do the one where I go to the community of for the deaf and the blind, and I'm in a warehouse, and my whole job, because it's just mind numbing, is to take these tapes that come back, put them in a rewinder, like the VHS tape, and put them away. So here's the point. Point is, I'm there, and I know I got to be there for many hours for a couple of weeks in a row. So finally, I go over to the guy, the supervisor, or whatever, and I said, "Do you mind if I just put something in my ears, like so I can listen to music?" And he's like, "Yeah, no problem. I know this is boring, no problem." Instead of putting music in my ears, I put um, thought leaders around SEO, right? Search engine optimization. So for a few weeks on end, for hours a day, I'm learning cutting edge digital marketing techniques from the pioneers as this was just getting started. And right after that, I was so advanced in what I knew that that's what led to starting that agency. And and
Wow.
and 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 the agency became successful, powerful, and sold it, right, 13 years later. And it's highly likely that if that guy wouldn't have arrested me and I wouldn't have gone through that horrible experience and then got to putting the headphones on and then had enough confidence to start an agency and then get burnt out to go to Mongolia and then realize that I need to build a network to give this to everybody, I wouldn't be
Wow.
here. I wouldn't be on this call
Wow.
with you.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, which by the way is a later in life, right? It didn't feel like it at the time. Of course, I was like, semi devastated, being a good person, usually in control of everything that I do. But it just reiterates what we spoke about in the early part of this, which is, wow, man, how grateful am I that that happened?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and now, not that I'm going to put myself in a position for that to happen, but when those things happen, I mean, you are in the canyon about to go to the summit. So just, you know, don't freak out. Just, enjoy the moments, do your best, and if you can operate like that, the world will turn in your favor here shortly. So
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So you can articulate all that looking back on this, but at the time that you got pulled over by that policeman and stuff, and we're going through it, what was, I mean, that probably
Mm.
wasn't your thought process at that point in time and
Hell
stuff.
no. No, 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 hell no. I mean, I was much younger, so
Sure.
I didn't have maybe the perspective that I have. But no, for sure. I mean, I was like really, really freaking out. I could not believe that this was happening, even though this guy was super nice to me and I was being super nice to them. I mean, it was almost like, like, do you really need to take me down there if you like
Yeah.
think I'm a nice guy, And but I think that who knows why, but I'm grateful for it, and and yeah, I don't know, but it has changed. Listen, I mean, I haven't had anything happen that was like that dramatic necessarily, but as you know, things in an extraordinary way go bad in business as a course of just being I mean, there's a reason why 98% of small businesses don't make it past like whatever it is, 3 years or whatever. It's because anything can go wrong.
Yeah.
I think that one other thing that I learned from that, which I think I try to share with peers who haven't had this awareness is, and certainly younger entrepreneurs is that one of the greatest risks I think to your mental health and your relationships and your ability to do anything is when your identity is tied to something other than your own happiness. Because you know this as well as I do. Like people who like for example, if I was sitting here at a younger level and people around me are like, this guy's like is an AI whisperer. He's one of the top guys in the country, which maybe I am, maybe I'm not right now. If something happened to where a great mistake happened, or something happened and I got somebody said no, this guy made a mistake and it cost me a lot of money, I might be devastated because my identity is wrapped up into that label of who I am, right? But I think the faster you separate from that, the faster you are in a great position to stomach any ups and downs that happen because they're independent of you and your character and who you are, right? But that's not easy for entrepreneurs. We give our life to a specific goal, and a lot of times we have to be careful not to tie those two together.
Yeah.
I've done it. I've done it in my early years. Not anymore
Yeah.
though.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, you were absolutely right. Nobody even has shared anything like that before out of 300 and some people on this podcast. That is an amazing and very unique couple of experiences right there.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that guy, so you have no idea where he is. If you wanted to try to track him down, do you think you could go back over there and maybe track him down if you wanted to?
I mean, thank God that whatever happened in the judicial system and the police system has been expunged long ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank God I can't go track him down. But like this is, I mean, when you posed the question and shared with me that this is one of the questions you asked, I really did think hard of it, and I realized that those two people have come to my memory far before and more frequent than just for this. I mean, they like I think about this, every maybe every couple of years or whatever. I just think about it, and I just remember, wow, like that was a moment that you know the invisible hand kind of changed the trajectory for me. Yeah, so it wasn't not a business thing, not a family member, right? Not somebody I admire that I met and I got inspired. There were these moments of kind of like divine clarity and a gift
Yeah.
that one of them didn't feel like it, the other one did. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really, really super grateful for that.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I know, that story you shared of being over there and you know it hit so much at home with me because yes, people, it is valuable to know somebody's background and their experience and just kind of get and know what they're good at, what they're capable of, what their God-given gifts and abilities are, and especially in my world, it's good to know
Mhm.
that. But
Mhm.
what I really want to know is like, man, I want to know who somebody is,
Yeah, yeah.
and who they really are. And it's not about all the stuff, because like, man, I used to you know, somebody who's maybe running a business doing, I don't know, 100 million, 200 million, 700 million, maybe put them on a pedestal and stuff. Cause like, cause I hadn't done anything like that.
Mhm.
And, and yeah, they know how they've figured out how to do that. But, you know what I found is just and doing this podcast for the last 3.5 years has been so beneficial in so many ways because I get to talk and just have real meaningful conversations with so many amazing entrepreneurs
Mhm.
and and just find out who they are and what who they really are and what makes them tick and stuff
Yeah.
and what inspires them and what jazzes them
Hmm.
and what I've come to realize is that there's no reason to put anybody on a pedestal
No.
there because we are all way more alike than we are different
Hmm.
and we are all doing the best we can with what we've got you
Hmm.
know and when we just come to the table and we just we're confident in our own abilities to just I know what I can do with the right people and stuff. I just know what
Hmm.
my gifts are and what my abilities are and I love applying it in
Hmm.
situations that I think might make a big impact and stuff. And like you said, I don't care if anybody on the other side of that ever even knows I was there. I could really care less. I know,
Hmm.
and it makes me feel good, and,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally.
and I want to do more of that.
Totally. What's interesting too is we have this gentleman inside this network that is an expert like futurist, but but for leaders. And he was using AI in one of these master classes that I hosted. And we had this exercise where you would, kind of meditate for a few minutes, thinking and envisioning what you look like as a future leader, right? Like a future of who you are. And everybody had different visualizations, but ultimately we had AI like take the summary and create the image of what you look like. And mine was accurate, but it was so different than who I was in the early years, because what mine came out to be was a crowd of people moving in a direction, right? Like down a valley, but I was in the back. I was slightly bigger than everybody, I think, because of my strength of leadership, strength of capability, the strength of character, right? Stability. But but I was in the back. And that's exactly a type of leader that can move crowds. It's not the person who's like trying to show that I just rolled up in a Maserati, right, or that I'm on a boat, or that I have more money than anybody else. I was a leader that was there for the people, putting myself behind, almost as a facilitator for everybody, which is truly who I've become. And what I think you're getting to, which is really important, is that you know um, one of the greatest realizations that gets back to that Mongolian guy is, however somebody gets through life, however you were brought in, if you had good parents, bad parents, if you somebody picked on you or you're a bully, if you got your heart broken, these are like wonderful but unique elements of the human condition and our experience. And when you look at everybody else, including the people that when we were young we thought, wow, that's my idol because he's like rolling around on a super yacht, they are no different, and neither is anybody else than us. We all have made it to this one moment in time, which mathematically is a massive miracle. Not just one miracle, it's like a multitude of miracles.
Multitude, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, man, if you look at other people and you really respect them like that, then you will operate without the ability to judge, and ironically, without the ability to be judged.
Yeah.
And that is an amazing place, because when you don't feel these things, you are able to operate without expectations, which also means without fear, future fear of negative ramifications, which means you can be yourself, you can be present, you can love everybody, you can still get after it as a competitor. But boy, I think your anxiety goes down by a factor of a million,
Yeah.
right? Versus you're trying to hold on to something and be like somebody. And again, we're bombarded by news, we're bombarded by social media, we're bombarded by opinionated people who are still stuck in the constraints of how they were raised, and that's just real life. I think hopefully leaders like myself and like you and the people that you're connected to, and likewise we can start to, just give people a little bit of relief that, it's perfectly fine to be a unit of one, because that's exactly what you are.
Yeah. Amen.
Mhm.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation today. And for anybody that's listening to this and going, dang, Kev, man, I really love Paul. I love some of the stuff he shared. Man, he's got my mind going just like he had your mind going. And if they wanted to follow up with you, in any websites, any resources we can offer folks?
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, anybody can reach me. A friend of yours is a friend of mine. So my email address is Kirch, Kirch at epx.global.
Okay.
Ironically, if anybody wants to check out this new networking platform that we're literally launching after 3 years of development, it's got amazing stuff in it. That's epix.global.
Okay.
And the last one, which I think is just germane to like our network, is the business account on that platform has us delivering AI systems for business. That thing is Epix EPX Max MAXX EPX MAXX.ai, and you can read about how we're able to come in and basically tell a business, run the business. We'll bring AI. Don't go learn ChatGPT. It's a waste of time. Don't try to get one little tool. You need systems that become sales, become marketing, become customer service, and we're one of the only ones in the world that can deliver that for smaller businesses that are trying to grow. So, and I'm happy to talk to anybody. I mean, I just, I'm gifted like you are to know great people, and I approach it that way every conversation. And so, like you said, when we were first starting, it's like what a gift to be, in the middle of such great people and such great networks. And all you and I care about is just connecting the right person to the right person, either in person with technology or whatever. Because I got to tell you, and you know this, and this is why you're so valuable. And I appreciate you, for many reasons, but nothing speeds success or even your path to happiness or greater relationships than an introduction.
Yeah.
It can change the game, and you could work all your life spending a lot of marketing money, which is still somewhat necessary, and we can make this stuff happen in
Just like
one
that. Yeah.
instant, just
Yeah.
like that, man.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. We get to, what's the right word I'm thinking of? It's collapsing time, you know,
that's right.
is we collapse time and we just allow things to happen now that would normally could take months, years to
Yeah,
have those kind of connections, but it can happen just like that. Yeah, no.
yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, yeah. Well, once again, man, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this
Likewise.
conversation. I really appreciate it, Paul. I really appreciate you. And man, I am just totally stoked to get this out there and share it with some awesome entrepreneurs, man. So
Let's
thanks
do it,
so
man. Like,
much.
we're living in service of others. So get it out there, and I'm happy to help anybody in any way.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right, brother. Have a
Thanks.
great one. I appreciate you, and
You
thanks for
too.
everybody for listening. Okay, talk to you soon.